exciting.
Yes, we are all ideas people. We need fresh ideas, fresh insights in our life to center ourselves. So, a good early morning Sangha discussing Gita philosophy is always great. I'm going to share my screen and we'll dive straight into the discussion. So, I was just thinking of where we are in this process. Like we've heard of Meredith, whose job became redundant after so many years, and she was quite lost in terms of her identity, and because her main identity was linked to her job and her career, and when that earthquake sort of hit her, she was quite miserable. This is from Simon Haas's book, Yoga and the Dark Night of the Soul. We also refer to other texts like Srila Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita as it is, and the teacher's book, The Four Questions. So this session is about Karma Yoga, but it's kind of sourced from various books, but keeping Simon Haas's book reading that we are doing as the base. So when he introduces part 3, which is the second agreement, let every step be its own reward, he talks about we can't escape action, not even in the dark night of the soul. So basically, what is the best way to act is then the question. If we can't run away, because practically it's not possible, we still have to maintain ourselves. Even every act that we do of just going somewhere or eating is also an act. Or even things that we are running away from are sometimes in the brain or in the mind, and those thoughts will keep coming back to attachments with people, things that you have held dear earlier will always be back in your background. The last part is, of course, spiritually it doesn't make sense because let me get Preeti in also. Yeah, so one more thing that spiritually also it doesn't make sense because we are supposed to learn from different situations in life, and we don't grow and advance in our yoga journey if we walk away. So the trick is based on Krishna's message, which is what is skillful action. And conclusion is easy to just be and just do anything in the world, but it's really difficult to do it skillfully. Like in normal parlance, also we join, higher education institutes to learn certain skills, but before that, we also get a huge download of information and knowledge, and then we learn how to, work in labs or do practical work or case studies, and then we move on. So this part of the book is extremely important, in fact, most important for people because they cannot advance in the spiritual life unless they've grasped this. And this morning I was thinking that, have I really done anything to be able to speak on this subject? Am I also a student of this situation? Yes, absolutely. It's like, to be true to your own nature is something very critical. And the idea of swadharma comes in when we don't know, when our identities are shaken up. One of the results is that our roles also change, and our roles change, and that means our duties can also be a little bit shaken up. So what Krishna beautifully talks about is, yes, we do have work specifically prescribed to align with our true nature, and in our varna ashram, as in our varna that we are in and the ashram that we are in, it can change, but certain personality traits and others don't really change as you go along in life. So this section, I wanted to just introduce the idea that if you do your swadharma well, but at the same time integrate your spiritual practice, which is nitya dharma, your approach to work is less stressful. So it's a good way to balance work and life. And so in a way, we'll obviously go deeper into the second part, which is let go of the fruits, and the third part, make your work an offering. Life is less stressful if you're able to do all these three steps. So rather than pretend we are someone else or try to be what others expect us to be, the first rule is sounds really liberating to us already, right? Like we can just do work which we're supposed to. And in this book, I'm just reading from page 150. He says, uh, that's the first rule of Karma Yoga. The second step is to let go of the fruits of action, as Krishna tells us. You have a claim only to the action itself, never to its fruit. So this is a very common verse, which most people would say is, what the Gita is about. Uh, yes, it is a very important verse, but in the whole context of Karma Yoga, these are the three steps. And if someone is explaining Karma Yoga and is just quoting this verse, it might not be the overall holistic picture of Karma Yoga. And so, next thing which I wanted to focus on was the idea of letting go of the fruits means giving up our attachment that something has to happen in a particular way. We remain open to whatever the results are. So, again, very few of us live life this way. Our whole training in our education and our professional life is start with smart goals, visualize that you will be the valedictorian in your university, uh, or an athlete, or this and that. Do we let go of that framework? That's not really the point. And I think it's the internal thing that, yes, for competition's sake, I have to play that role or play that part to be competitive. uh, you know so, but at the same time, internally, the integration that you have with your Sanatan Dharma, we are okay with every result as long as we put in that hard work. We have to be competitive in a sport or a game or a situation. Well, very well, be, but your heart-centeredness to your Nitya Dharma makes you do that even more skillfully. You're not getting distracted in a way. Some people say, oh, spirituality is distracting, but the argument Krishna is making is actually not. So you can become a lot more focused instead of being attached to your false ego. So be consciously surrendering our attachment to the fruits of our work. We free ourselves from the ego's need to claim success. So which is basically pride. And ego's need to claim success is another sort of phrase for pride. And that's considered one of the six enemies of the mind, which doesn't help us grow the fullest. And the second thing is, he says, is and also let go from the ego's fear of failure. So fear and pride, these are things that hold us back. Even any normal coach would also tell us that, this whole pride of succeeding, you will have stage fright because you basically, your pride will get hurt if you don't do well. And that attachment leads you to suffering and actually not perform well on stage, right? So that is definitely what most speech coaches would also talk about. Fear of failure is another deterrent, and your action itself is not even like growing spiritually. This is talking about succeeding in this real world. By contrast, if we are fixated on trying to force an outcome, it goes on explaining the same thing. It usually brings out the worst in us. Our ego flourishes, and we are caught in a cycle of want and frustration tied to a small story. So we are fearful of the future, confused in the present, and if we lament about, oh, I made a goof up earlier. So these are really debilitating thoughts to sort of not give you that lift and stay connected to your true nature and do what you're supposed to do to the best of your knowledge. So yes, Swadharma is something which is we do in this material world. We are the spirit soul in this material body, acting. We cannot escape from acting. It is important. But at the same time, if we have a kind of connection through sadhu, shastra, sangha, then we, and our inner Paramatma, then we awaken this connection, or then we learn how to integrate our work in both these realms while living in this world. So no need to escape. So yes, Aswadharma is about immediate duties, yes, our family, friends, bosses expect something from us. So we can't just like, okay, today I'm just focusing on my Sanatan. It's the Sanatan Dharma is the flow, it's the mood with which you live life, and that's your underlying mood and mission of life, or the soul's mood and mission. But your current duties have to be performed. So this slide I wanted to add, and this is something a team working with is working on for taking it to schools, and it links the idea of tree of life to finding your purpose, finding your career, or even college major, and so on and so on. So once we know ourselves better, of course, in the modern parlance, you have the Enneagram, you have the personality test, many other things. But once we know that, we are connected to who we truly are in some sense. Then, if we are lucky, we find the right institutions, teachers who guide us to teach us the practice, which is the trunk of the tree. So, the tree of life is essentially the roots that we have when we connect to our true identity. The trunk is education, the practice that nourishes us to then become a flourishing tree, which is the main goal of our Nitya Dharma also. Loving service, loving devotional service is something we keep talking about. And that's also true in our real world. So these principles don't really change between the material world and our spiritual aspirations. These principles remain true. If we live a life of service in the work that we do, in the true work, first finding that true identity and swabhava, to then find the right training to be sort of practicing that, and hence being in the right organization and setting in the right forest. This tree has to be in the right forest and get the right nourishment to be able to thrive and also to contribute. So why is all this so important? I think Swadharma as an idea is linked to the Varnashram system. And if you look around us, the world provides us so many things and we don't acknowledge it. We very rarely do a gratitude prayer to even figure out that, how are we actually able to sleep and get rest, and then also digest our food while we're sleeping, and then also then wake up energized, and you know uh, have so many people around us to support us. Life is not just a Blinkit or a Swiggy app. It just doesn't happen like that. There's a whole yagna or a harmony cycle that is in place. Even how the cosmos works, you have multiple universes, perhaps you have our own universe, we have a galaxy. So all of it seems to be running in synchronicity. So when we are not either confused or remorseful or fearful, and we live our true nature, and we look at work as an offering to maintain that harmony cycle, that is called yagna or sacrifice. And this is beautifully explained in my teacher Vaisheshika Haas's book, The Four Questions. In Simon Haas's book, he talks about step 2. So he gave 3 steps on how we can live life. And the step 2 was, or do work in this life, is letting go of the fruits. And we touched upon it, but just to highlight this again, usually whatever we do it only for the fruits. Krishna explains that this over anxious craving for results causes suffering, which we've understood. We must act with full commitment and skill, but letting go means giving up our attachment that something has to happen in our favor. We remain open to whatever the results are. Thus, we free ourselves from ego's need to claim success and from the ego's fear of failure. We've done this, but it's so stress relieving to be able to do that, was one point that the book also covered. So it's also important to know that when we give, we normally feel happy. Give someone, or we even think of going to someone to meet someone, and we take a gift. Just the thought of it, that we want to gift someone, makes us happy. And then when we give it and we see that person happy, it's kind of a completion of that's a cycle of happiness and giving that we perceive. And that actually happiness is called bliss or ananda, which is one of the three characteristics of our soul, which is truth. To live a life of truth, again, true nature, to also know what is going to make you more pure, more discerning, what you are ingesting from your senses, which is socha and or purity. And the third is ahimsa, non-violence. And ahimsa is so beautifully covered in our shastra, which essentially means when you live a life of giving, uh, then the lens with which you look at people changes completely. So you start wearing these shades of service instead of what is the world going to do for us, or what is this person going to do for me, or this company going to do for me. You look at, oh, wait a minute, I'm here to serve. I'm here to figure out, um, what I can do to help this person, this project, this team. It just changes the way we look at our lives. And it's kind of a paradigm shift because we are rooted in the idea of making our work an act of offering, of love. And as we grow into this book, we'll realize sacred love is all that's keeping the harmony cycle alive. And to be part of that is to be human. It's to be that spiritual being who's living their swabhav and hence being ready for their ultimate destination of not getting caught up in the cycle of birth and death. But yes, there are people who exist in this world and have actually explicitly there to teach us all this, right? So they might have realized the ultimate sort of goal, but the harmony cycle in the world, divinity, Krishna, provides these people in our lives to give us that vision and clarity. So fine, make your work an offering of love. It's not the nature of the task, but the intention and consciousness behind it that makes it sacred. Again, quoting from Simon's book, this is just wonderful. Say if you are even just doing a normal act, like, and this is something I just wanted to write on my own. Say if you're folding laundry, even at home for your kids, uh, you can do it with resentment, so that kind of becomes a chore. But yeah, any comments, Arvind? Anything so far?
No, no, you end, then I'll just make
Yeah,
one.
yeah, sure. So it's the resentment with which we can do it. But if you fold it with care, seeing it as a loving offering to your family, it becomes seva, an act of yoga. So this approach also helps dissolve our ego, makes us less stressed out about what we do. Instead of saying, I did this, we say, this was my offering to my family today. Or so, yeah, this pretty much shifts, our motivation shifts from achievement or recognition to contribution and connection. So our heart softens. I think that's the conclusion. And I just wanted to end with this slide, the book that I really admire and great efforts. It also has journaling tips and key takeaways. So yeah, happy to share a copy with you when we meet.
Sure.
All right.
And
Yes.
only one thought.
Mhm.
Being true to your inner self, and making, enjoying the journey, making work your kind of service and everything. I mean, just a thought might hold true when you're on your own or you're heading an organization or everything. But when you're part of an organization, you have to align your work with your organization's goals, because, I mean, you may be enjoying the journey, you may be feeling what I'm doing is correct, but if you're going to lead to pain with yourself for yourself.
Oh yes, and it's very similar to Arjun's situation, right? Like he might be thinking that I'll enjoy best if I run away,
Mhm.
but the message of the Gita is not to run away, because you have to, because you're in this material world,
Mhm.
in a physical body, which is the made up of five elements. It has the man, buddhi, ahankar, mind, intelligence, and false ego. We are in it, so we cannot really escape our duty. So if we are in an organization, we have to be very skillful and do the best to meet the organization goals. But that connection or the integration with Sanatan Dharma, Nitya Dharma, helps us glide through and not be confused. Sometimes people feel that, okay, I would run away from work and my spirituality is all I need. That doesn't work. That's the whole point.
Yeah. No, you might not be running away from work, but
Yeah.
you may be working in a particular way that does not fit into
Yes.
the. Yeah. You may
Yes.
work. Yeah, but
I think that's very important. Like a lot of people, he mentioned in this book, right? He gave examples of he was interning with Chris
mm,
and how Chris called his work a slaughterhouse of the soul,
mm,
right? For the soul.
mm,
And then he met with, who was that? Mark, or let me think about it. He mentioned two people, Peter, right?
mm,
Peter.
mm, mm,
Peter, who after 25 years of becoming a senior partner in a law firm, he just went ahead and changed his career to be a teacher. Yes, I think. Uh, so, do you think 25 years were wasted? I don't think so. That was not the point. Or do you think Chris was feeling so miserable at
mm,
work? That's not his true nature. Was that not part of the journey? It
mm,
was. It definitely is. It's put in his life in a situation to get him to a point of understanding the importance of his true nature and make that correction. So yeah, I guess it's very subjective to individual needs, and you in a different stage in life, in the different ashrams of life, you also change. So I was also very much into growing my business and practice, which is my education business, which is great. I think I did that for my family, make sure that there was savings, there was enough to sort of. But as I moved towards looking at my work as Seva, I said, no, wait a minute, I need to work with fewer students and fewer cases, go back to my old ways, the way I started instead of, and that helped me align both my work. Again, I'm not fully aligned, still struggling, but yeah, that's the journey. How about you? I'll just switch off the recording and we
mm.
can maybe continue for a few minutes.
No, I totally enjoyed the process and enjoyed the work. So somewhere I could identify with this chapter that yes, enjoy what you're doing and then work according to your nature. So I never faced this issue, though there were some issues where I felt that typically what happens in our service is there are certain ethics issues that come up, and your bosses don't expect you to be ethical, and there are pressures to be non-ethical, and that's the conflict. So that's the
Hmm.